Great throw here. Bryce, good read. 18, good job. What are we doing? Right? I mean, the DB is 150. Run him over. Why are we diving, sticking the ball out?
And welcome into Touchdown Live. As always, I am Matthew Travis.
And Jones certainly has a lot of chemistry here with Hereford. Goes to McGinn. McMillon is smithing the tackle for Alabama.
The M3 show.
It's not always good for the quarterback on the other side to be talking stuff so early in the game.
Look, I don't have a kid on the way this week, but it's almost time for Alabama football season, baby.
Welcome back to another episode of the M3 show. This week, there are four of us. We're joined by former Alabama wide receiver Slade Bolden, the first guest here on the M3 show. As always,
go.
Josh McMillon and Mac Hereford here as well. So, Slade, thank you very much for joining us and welcome.
Well, it's an honor, really, and a privilege to be the first guest on this wonderful show. And I am very, very thankful. And I actually do mean that. Thank you all so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to not only chop it up with my boys, but also talk football and especially Bama football. So thank you all for giving me another opportunity to do so.
Of course, and we're talking about another Alabama win. The Tide beat Wisconsin 38-14, another solid game from Ty. We'll get into all that, talk about bye week, talk about some stories with those three from their days playing at Alabama. But we're, of course, going to start with the win. Alabama wins 38-14 over Wisconsin, wins both games of the home and home versus the Badgers. Ty Simpson, another solid game, going 13 for 14, going back to last week. So really, really good. 21. They started 21 up 21-0 at halftime. I meant 13-14 in the first half. So really good first half. Slowed down a little bit there in the second half. But Josh, I want to hear from you watching this game back this week. Like I said, good first half, slowed down a little bit in the second half. What did you see specifically when you were watching this game on Saturday?
I mean, I saw a stellar performance, of course, by Ty Simpson. I mean, he went 24 or 29 passing, 382 yards, got the run established early, got his feet on the ground. We looked absolutely well, especially in the receiver position. We had a couple guys come up with some touchdowns. Jeremy Bernard is always looking stellar. Ryan Williams definitely had a recovery game this week, putting up over 100 yards. I mean, like, we're really looking really strong. It's taking me back to a few years where we had Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith, and Jalen out there, running routes and kind of dialing up defenses. So very, very impressed with our offensive play. Kevin Riley, when he runs the ball, he looks like he's out there trying to dominate someone. Pause. But he's looking really great out there. And I mean, he's really putting on for the running backs at the running back position. I mean, we've had legendary guys like Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs. And to see him actually get out there and affect the game running, but also in the passing game, it's looking great. And stepping over to the defense, Bray Hubbard, SEC Defensive Player of the Week. The guy truly balled. 2 interceptions. I mean, we had 4 sacks on the defensive side of the ball, all from different position groups. I think the Tide put up a stellar performance. We gave up a touchdown on special teams, got to clean that up, gave up one on the defensive side of things. But you want to know what stuck out the most? Bray Hubbard took responsibility for that touchdown. He said how we were going to continue to improve. And that's what I love to see. These guys are not accepting, hey, we had a phenomenal game. That's how we're gonna get by. They're gonna look up to always and improve and step up and be the better, University of Alabama team. And I just love the play all overall. We gave up, 100 yards rushing, but you had Drake Kirkpatrick Jr. flying around knocking heads off, really living up in his dad's legacy and shoes. So I mean, for me, I think these guys really affected the game, made the quarterback uncomfortable, put up points on the board in a stylish way, and really showed that they're taking that next step in transition later on down into the season.
Yeah, like you said last week, you wanted to see some sacks. We saw 3 in the first half. Really good game out of the defense. But You were talking about the receivers, and we have two former Alabama receivers on this podcast. So, Mac, look for you, same thing, looking at this game, what really stuck out from the win over Wisconsin?
Yeah, I mean, Josh covered most of it, but when we talk about the first episode we did, second episode, we talked about a lot of these things we wanted to see improving throughout the season, and each and every category has done just that. I don't think we're to where as good as we can be yet, but I love seeing, like, for me personally on the offensive side, and Josh mentioned and hinted at it, but the wide receiver core. I think there was like 6 or 7 different guys that got action. And had passes from Ty Simpson, and Ty just looked really good again as well. I mean, you said 13 for 14 completions, I think is the number.
In the
And
first
so his,
half,
his
yeah.
accuracy continued to show off, and do well. And then, I'm looking at some of my notes from the game right now. We talked about sacks and getting pressure on defense, and we did that. We had, I think, 2 or 3 sacks in the first half. Yeah, 3 sacks in the first half. So that was exciting to see. I know Josh had been bringing that up a lot. So I was excited to see that on defense. And then Ryan Williams being back, he looked phenomenal. It was a huge kind of just statement game for him, after game one, not really living up to the hype per se that the people wanted. Now that was, I've actually watched, shout out to Slade's segments that he does on Instagram and TikTok, but he mentions a little bit of that and that change in Ryan Williams' role. And I think we saw him in this game really fit into that role and how special he can be at it. And then Jeremy Bernard, I can always, I mean, that guy just continues to freaking show up and show out. 4th and 1, he's your guy. That's who we should go to every single time. I mean, he's got the toughness, he's got the speed, the physicality, and love seeing him continue to ball out. But overall, the offense was really fun and exciting to see with so many guys being incorporated into the game plan. And then defense just getting those sacks,
Nasty. You
getting
hear
that
me?
pressure. They look a
Nasty.
lot better. And then two, shout out, I know you mentioned it, Josh, but Bray Hubbard, another 18, and we have another 18 on the show today. Slade Bolden. But Bray Hubbard, another guy, and it's like you can listen to the noise. Everyone's gonna naturally hear the noise. You're gonna hear it. It's what you do with the noise that makes the impact. And Bray Hubbard seems to have heard it and come out there and made a statement on defense as well. So overall was pretty pleased with the game, and we'll get into the drop situation. Me and Slade will discuss it a little bit more after we debrief a little bit of Wisconsin. But I want to hear Slade's thoughts on the games on the game. So Slade, take it away.
Well, I mean, hey, it's something about them 18s, right? It's if you're gonna rock it, you better rock it. So it's funny though, Josh, you were mentioning these guys that our new receiving core is familiar to, and
Hmm.
there was some missing names. I felt like
you
I was
know,
just I was
look.
just waiting to hear them, but obviously didn't hear
The
those. No,
Slade Bowdens, man. Look, hey,
but
we're gonna get
no.
about it in a little
He
how
was
much
We
we
talking
can
don't
about
slow
put
Mac. He
down.
Slade.
wasn't talking about Slade.
Well, hey, when you said Ruggs and Jew and Smitty, there were a couple guys that were still on that in that receiving core.
You're
But no,
100%
I was
right.
like, trust me.
We don't
Uh,
have a Slade Bolden right now. We can all say that. We don't have a Slade
I,
Bolden at Alabama right now.
Hey, when I was with those guys, I saw a lot of those balls go over my head into their hands. So trust me, if I was the quarterback, I'd have been throwing them the ball as well. So it's definitely a much better comparison. But yeah, I mean, from what you guys already said, I can definitely agree on. I only thing that I would probably bounce back off is just from the defense giving up that many rushing yards. I believe Wisconsin is ranked number 2 in total offense in Big Ten, or second to last. Sorry, not
Hmm.
number 2, second to last in total offense in the Big Ten. Had a backup quarterback, so that's one thing that kind of worries me, and that is true facts. Uh, our interior D line, I believe we're getting pushed back too much. We're not getting pressure on the quarterback. Yes, we had sacks, thankfully, but we should be able to, especially against an offense like that. Their O line's not that great, but it just you continue to see runs up the middle. Even against ULM, who was not a very overall comparatively competitive and talent-wise team to us in the SEC in general. So that's my biggest concern. Now, getting Tim Keenan back, I think it will be huge. Hopefully, after this bye week, which is going to be good to get some healthy guys back, get some rest, hey, another week of preparation as well. But I do believe that we do need to work on the interior line from offense and defensive standpoint. I do think that
For sure.
our O line is not playing as one. And I thought, the best O lines that I played with and the best O lines that I saw was not necessarily the best talent across the board, but they played together. They played on the same telepathic wavelength, and that's what you have to do. And whether that's hanging out outside the locker room and just becoming one unit, because they have to understand each other's reach and the pulls and how they're going to work up to a linebacker, all these different things and all their reads and all their calls and being able to check out of different things and pick up blitzes. That is something that I'm not seeing. I saw Caden Proctor throw some guys out of club, but we need that consistently. And like you said, I think our back seven or really our DB unit is playing very well. I'm hoping that the whole defense takes on that same mentality that Bray Hubbard has displayed these last two games, flying around, playing physical, tracking the ball, being a ball hawk. And Josh, you mentioned Drake Kirkpatrick. I spoke a lot about him after the ULM game because he was really, causing damage and like
Yeah.
playing nasty. And granted, he got flagged for a targeting,
Mhm.
which we can go back and forth on whether or not that was a good call or not. But I don't care. It's how he did it and how he's playing. And I think as long as there are a certain amount of guys and some leaders playing that way, eventually everyone will build off that momentum and start playing the same. I'm hesitant to think that we are where we need to be. I know we have a lot to work on, but I do think we're going into Georgia week on a right foot and the right note, considering how we've responded from game one and then built off game two to now game three. Offense is just playing so well, executing so well. I'm loving our receiver core. You mentioned Kevin Riley just giving us an explosive option out of the backfield from a passing and a running standpoint. I mean, hell, he ran basically a running back through route or follow like a seam and was able to go up and make a great play and make a contested catch. You don't see that happen out of running backs very often. So I think having all those different types of running backs that can just kind of feed off each other's different intangibles is so crucial because as a running back group, you have to spill each other off and you have
Yeah.
to, some guys are different than others when it comes to certain situations and certain types of schemes from an offensive standpoint. But at the end of the day, I see a lot of upside with this team, a lot of young talent, a lot of good depth, and just the way we responded shows me, like I think you said this, Josh, just how that hey, like they saw the noise, and maybe both of y'all said it. They saw the negative noise in the outside, and because of how they responded, shows me that they know that they need to get better, and they're not going to settle for what they displayed on the first game.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think for me, the big takeaway was we talked about it a lot. Just Ryan Williams being back is so massive. And we'll get into that drop he had here in a minute. But that play on the sideline making two guys miss, it reminded me of the play against Georgia that won us the game last year. Just him doing those things is something we didn't see against obviously Florida State, ULM neither here nor there. It's ULM. It's not Florida State or Wisconsin, but him being back is such a crucial part. And obviously, Tide continues to improve week over week over week. And Jeremy was a factor in the running game. Obviously, ran for a touchdown in
Yep.
addition to that, but. The running game is starting to worry me. And that's now two power four opponents we've played, both of which we rushed for less than 100 yards against. Again, Florida State, part of the reason for that is we were down double digits, had to throw the ball to get back into it. But Slade, I do want to hear kind of your thoughts on it. Is that because Jam is out, or is that the offensive line? What are you seeing out of the run game, and maybe why we haven't seen a whole lot out of the run game up to this point?
Yeah, it could be you know a tale of a lot of things. I think yes, the O-line's not playing as well as they should be. I don't think we're getting enough push from the interior. I don't think we're playing as one unit. And luckily when it comes to pass protection, we have a really good quarterback who can make up for that pressure and get out and escape the pocket and keep plays alive on his feet while keeping his eyes downfield. But that's what scares me, not being able to run the ball, control the clock, and establishing that run game. Because when you go into a hostile environment like Georgia here in a couple of weeks, and you play a really good team, an SEC rival, you have to establish the run game.
For
And if
sure.
you don't, dominoes are going to fall. Because then we all know this. Look, the game has changed so much, but having an established run game opens up everything in the playbook. Being able to play action, throw the ball downfield, keep the linebackers and safeties honest, and keep them close to the line of scrimmage, and be able to go over their top of their heads. So I'm not for sure if it's not having jam or having some young guys, but I'm not seeing it from the running backs. I'm just seeing look. I did see some times where they created some holes,
Hmm.
but I want to see guys moving the opposite direction. I really haven't seen that much. And look, not all the times is it based off the players. It could be the way we're scheming up our run blocking.
Yeah.
I played for Arthur Smith, who I thought was one of the best run callers in the NFL. He had a different offense, and unfortunately for a guy like me, it wasn't the best offense to be in. But from a blocking schematic standpoint and being able to move O linemen in the right direction and the right schemes and the kind of their job to whether it's reaching, pulling, kicking out, you name it. Maybe that has to do with it too. So maybe Grubb's running schemes are not
Yeah.
as effective as his play calling from a pass standpoint is. So
Yeah.
it could be all tangibles there,
I
anyways.
I do
I
want to tail on that because this is who Ryan Grubb is. He
yeah.
doesn't run the ball. There's a reason you know who Rome Odunze is. He
Yeah.
was very effective in getting Michael Penix to be effective through the air at Washington, and he did the same thing with the Seahawks last year. His his forte isn't running the football. It's
Yeah.
getting quarterbacks to play to the best of their capability, and I do think that's part of it because I also think part of it is Grubb knows that Jam isn't out and he doesn't know what he has in Kevin Riley yet. Because
Yes.
at the end of the day, we only had 16 handoffs in that game.
Hmm.
Ty was actually our leading rusher. He ran it 6 times for 25 yards. Also had the longest run in that game
For
with a
19
19-yard
yards.
rush.
Yeah.
Kevin Riley had an 11-yard rush. He looked good in the first half, especially through the air as well. But you
Mhm.
said it right there. Part of the reason is Ryan Grubb does not rely on the running game as much as we've seen in the past. We saw it under Saban, we saw it last year in DeBoer's first year. But I think Grubb's fingerprints on this offense are part of the reason that we're not seeing Alabama run it as much as we've seen in past years as well.
Well, I'll piggyback off that as well because that's where it starts up top. Who are
Hmm.
you hiring? You got to have a run, a run coordinator. You have to have a third down coordinator. You have to have a red zone coordinator. Who is taking over those types of situations, right? A lot of times the running back coach or the O line coach is your run game coordinator. A lot of times the receiver's your third down coordinator. And then when it comes to high and low red area, it's normally the OC. So maybe that starts internally, from a coaching staff standpoint. And that's the biggest question, right? As Tide Nation and Tide fandom, is DeBoer the right guy? Now, I've always said this. If you have a recipe for success, no matter what ingredients those are, whether it's the Mike Leach, the Bill Belichick, the Pete Carroll, the Mike Tomlin way of doing things, the Nick Saban way of doing things, they all had a recipe for success, right? If you don't have the right ingredients, whether that's the coaching staff, the players in that locker room, then you're not going to have success. But if you do and everybody's bought into that special sauce, you will have success. So we'll see.
Yeah, I love that point, Slade, because we talked about it a while back. I had some dumb comparison, and I said it like in the sense of I said it was like going from whiskey to tequila. Like they're two completely. You got Saban, and they're
Yeah,
both types of alcohol, but they're just different. And
180.
but the ingredients thing is huge because that's it. I mean, that's the overall thing. It's like we were telling people, a lot of people were jumping ship, going crazy after the first couple of games. We were like, look, everybody just calm down. Like he's got a different way. It's the fact that his ingredients are a lot different. The hoodie at the games or whatever it is, he does things a lot differently. But I think once we give him time to develop and really see what he can do, that's when we'll get the chance to see, is he the right guy or not. I think
Yeah.
it's still in the process of us being able to see it.
Hey, the way Cajuns make gumbo is totally different than the way Creole people make gumbo.
That
But they both
Louisiana talk.
good. But they
Can't
both
say
good.
that.
I was in
Yeah.
Lake Charles for 3 years, Slade. The way they make it in Monroe is a little different than the way they make it in Lake Charles.
Whoa, now. Hey,
Ooh.
I don't mean it's any worse now. We
Um,
still got the Cajuns up there.
the other critical thing when we talk about deep, like the importance of the run game too, that we obviously hinted at what it can do for the offense, but defensively what it does, like it gives guys time to recover the defense, a little bit of a rest, which is huge for them to perform at the best of their ability, which I think is a huge thing too. So hopefully we can establish that for Georgia.
Mhm.
But Matthew, I mean, if you have more stuff on Wisconsin, definitely we can jump into it or discuss more if you got more questions for Slade on that. But I also am very curious because we have Slade on here. I want to hear his like thoughts on the Alabama program in general this season, through the first 3 games.
Oof, that's tough.
Like, what are your biggest thoughts, Slade? I would say, like in the sense of, you know, what are the things, if you could sum up where we're at right now, 3 games, what are your overall thoughts of how everything's been going and has gone?
Yeah, I mean, man, that first game was disappointing, not because we lost, not because we necessarily didn't execute on offense, not because we didn't finish drives, not because we gave up a lot of big plays from a defensive standpoint. It was the mentality. It's how we gave up those plays. It's how we didn't execute. It's how we didn't play. So the overall mentality was what was my biggest concern, because we've lost games. I mean, I've lost games. You've lost games. Josh has lost games. We all lost games. We don't take L's, we take lessons. And it seems as so that these guys took that lesson and have responded. So I'm liking the overall mentality based off the first game, but it's so hard to give a true, clear, I guess, analyzation on moving forward because of who we've played. But then again, those guys got athletes. Those guys play football as well. They have cleats, they have helmets, they have shoulder pads. So at the end of the day, it's all about X's and O's. It's the quarterback taking the snap, making a read, and throwing it to receiver, and he has to catch it, right? It's the same as a corner staying on his man, getting a PBU, whatever. The overall mentality is what was the biggest concern for me from the first game. And a lot of times teams take the identity or the mentality of their head coach. And look, I don't know exactly what's going on in those locker rooms and those team meeting rooms, but from what I've seen on the sidelines, from what I've seen in interviews, I'm worried that there's not that mentality set. Like, look, we can't just keep comparing this team to Saban days. It's not. It's a totally different, like you talked about. This is the tequila compared to the whiskey. Or really, if you want to do that analogy, it's the whiskey to the Mike's Hard Lemonade, if you want to ask my opinion.
Got some stronger percentage back
Is
Yeah,
that your
there.
go-to,
yeah.
Slade?
No, I'm just saying it's a little bit easier to put down.
Yeah.
It's kind of lighter in the ass, but that's the thing that I felt like the way they responded, especially some individual players responding. I like where we're going. We just got to build off of it.
Yeah.
And honestly, we might need to get kicked in the teeth one more time because there
Mhm.
are some things we still need to work on. And if it's not already apparent to them, maybe one more L, one more uh, kick teething or teeth kicking uh, is what's due, to really kind of set ourselves back and have some self-reflection on, okay, we're not doing everything we need to do to get the job done.
Do you
That, or we're also going into the bye week. So the hope is some of those things can be corrected in a
Yeah,
bye week before, well, we talked about it. You're going to Athens to play Georgia. They just had a very close, they should have lost it against Tennessee if it weren't for that field goal kick, who was the most nervous kicker I've seen in my life. But that's besides the point. So Slade, and really for all three of you, going into the bye week, how can you make the most of a bye week? And the hope is obviously Tim and Jam are coming back. They obviously dressed out for warm-ups this week. But in your experiences, when you guys were at Alabama, how were bye weeks used, especially when you did have those things to correct?
I mean, I'll jump into it, I guess, first. I'll
good.
tell you this, Slade. It's funny you're on here because I could be wrong, but bye week, when I think about bye week, Slade, your name pops up in my head because when I say that, we prepared for anything possible. And Slade, in the first year that he was there, was that guy that was anything in the sense of like Slade, you played freaking. We talked about this with like when
Yeah,
we trained for like running quarterbacks, but like we used you for everything. It'd be like, all right, is there going to be this guy who's going to be split out on the wing? Is there going to be a
yeah,
guy who's running quarterback? So bye week, I feel like it was always a massive preparation week. And in the sense of we would deep dive into not only the game that we're preparing for after bye week, but other looks from anything possible. So that if anything came our way, best believe we're going to be damn well prepared for whatever
hmm
that may be. I always enjoyed bye weeks, but obviously you don't have the hype and the excitement that you do during a game week. But that's my kind of thoughts on it. Slater, Josh, feel free
yeah.
to
I
jump in.
mean, like you said, we'd work on earlier in that first week of the bye week. You kind of work on other teams that you're going to face, especially uh, the more niche type of offenses or the defensive schemes that you would see. Like for example, we played Citadel, and I was
Wing
the
T formation
I
and
was
all
the
that.
option quarterback, so we hit on that. A couple scout periods there. But I think the biggest thing that I feel like we always did in a bye weeks is getting back to the basics, getting back to the fundamentals, and just
Yeah.
working on what the little things, right? And little things always lead to big things. And I think that's something that a lot of us need to work on here. Not us, obviously, but Bama. I think from an O-line standpoint, just the fundamentals of their blocking schemes, and then our receivers just looking to tuck, and being able to run smooth, crispy routes, and understanding their landmarks. I mean, a lot of those things, and hell, even receivers blocking, which I feel like we've done pretty well from what I've noticed, but just getting back to the basics and the fundamentals, and man, we would practice hard too. Like it would
Oh
it
yeah.
would be damn near a fall camp practice that week.
Treacherous.
Yeah, that week leading up, because coach never wanted us to lose that physicality, that mentality, that mindset of, hey, this shit ain't sweet. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we got to keep going, and we can't just let up on the gas pedal because we got a game off. But
Hmm.
then again we got to protect each other, so that it all comes together. But I think that's the main thing that I remember from being on a bye week was just getting back to the basics and hitting on things that we need to correct, most importantly.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, Slade definitely hit it on the head. Like when we did bye week at the University of Alabama, it was almost worse than preparing for an actual team.
Hmm.
Like we would be doing, sprints after every practice. We would be in there like hands behind the line. Like if you jump off sides, like we're adding another sprint. There were so many things that we kind of keyed and paid attention to. Tackling drills beforehand. We would actually start the drills back over if there were more than like two or three missed tackles in their drill. I mean, you from linebackers to DBs, like lineup, recognizing fronts, different defensive linemen doing different schemes and plays. Like we have to attack what Alabama football is actually made of, and that's always been the fundamentals and playing to the standards and principles of University of Alabama. So I feel like there has to be from the D lineman, like consistently getting pass rush, getting in your lane, affecting the line of scrimmage, and the QB, making him uncomfortable in the pocket. linebackers, scraping over and making sure the defensive guys are always on one key, making sure that you're talking to your partner next to you. We're not getting cut 4 and 5 yards down the field. DBs playing your gap, getting to your hooks, getting to your deep thirds. Everybody basically doing, their job. Coach Saban always had this thing: don't farm someone else's land. Like, farm your own land. Do take care of your responsibility. And if you do that, everything will kind of piece together and add together, and we'll have their whole set defense. So definitely from their defensive perspective, we need to work on that. We'll get a few guys back. Tim Keenan, I think Latham on the defensive line. He went out early with the injury. I think in game 2, but getting those guys back will be essential at this defensive team establishing their identity, and that's really what I'm looking forward to. Like Slade said earlier, 116 yards rushing, to a Power Four school doesn't, impress me. Like
Mhm.
there are definitely places where we have some holes and where we can get better, and I think this is the time where we do. Whether it be tackling, making sure we get on the bags and extend our hips 2 or 3 times extra in the practice. Always pushing to get further. And like for the offense, those guys need to step it up a little bit too. The offensive line, defense, running backs, really establishing their identity. If we're gonna go with Kevin Riley, let's make him the main guy. Find some gaps and schemes that he can kind of fit in and be the explosive runner that he is. Make plans and preparations for Jam when he comes back. All these are things that kind of we need to start putting emphasis on if we're going to be that outstanding team.
Yeah, I hope that my biggest hope is in kind of a concern, not necessarily a concern, but yeah, I guess it is a concern. Something that Slade brought up that is true, and Josh talked about, and I've talked about a little bit, is bye week was in no way, shape, or form
Hell
rest
no.
week.
No.
It was hell week. It was taking, like, we talk about a lot of the times of preparing for the smaller teams. It almost felt like we were even preparing harder, which I don't, know if we could possibly do. Preparation in Coach Saban's system was insane, but I think it was just a week where we fully, like these guys mentioned, got back to the basics, reevaluated, prepared, and kept the steam of the train rolling into the next week. And so I hope that we can continue, and I hope this bye week is one where they do that because we need to have that momentum um, and everything going into Georgia. Slade, I know since you're on here, one of the questions we had from Cannon Claycomb, who was a former Bama golfer
Okay.
during the game, he's the man. Shout out Cannon. But
Golf
he
adjacent starting soon.
yeah, no, I think it's already started or they're going tonight or something, but we'll be on team for that. He's starting an Alabama golf podcast. But he
Oh,
he
okay,
mentioned
cool.
one of the questions that he had, because I know Ryan Williams had a drop, and earlier on he had some drops. Other guys had drops. Is what is it that causes receivers to drop? For me personally, I'll say that like it could be a combination of tons of different things. I'll
Hmm.
say like when I remember there's times where I'd be up and down. I always like to pride myself on my
Mac was
hands,
always
but
scared to get hit sometimes.
heck
See
no.
the
Heck no.
linebacker
I got
coming.
so many licks, buddy. I remember like holding on to the ball getting hit so hard that like I couldn't,
Uh,
like I was a little bit like it almost helped me that I got hit hard because my body would
okay.
like
Yeah.
freeze up and I
Okay.
wouldn't let go of the ball. But there was times where I went through phases where my hands just weren't where they needed to be. And for me personally, it relied a lot on the mental.
Hmm.
We're all really well prepared. A lot of us, like you called a lot of jugs after practice. Like we all called extra balls, like we did that kind of thing. But sometimes like the catching, there's gonna be drops for whatever reason. For me, it's mental. It's like either anticipation was probably the biggest one for me. Like if you're just waiting, it's coming to you, you're waiting. For some reason that got in my head sometimes.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously the fear of getting hit. There's the ball delivery. There's how you're using your hands to actually catch the ball, whether you're trying to catch it with your body, reach out and extend and catch it. But curious on your angle, what thoughts you have on that? Because we can't ever explain or know what A, B, or C guy why they're exactly missing.
Yeah.
But we can talk about how people drop in general, how people drop the ball in general.
Yeah. You hit them all. I mean, I felt like every Saturday I've made countless and countless catches and reps, whether from every type of route, every type of coverage and situation where when I was on the field, it was second nature. I didn't have to think about it because it's just part of my ability. And obviously, you can't get these at Best Buy. You know what I mean? You really have to get a subscription to these bad boys. So I always felt like that was one of my better attributes. So I always had to work on all the other things like my speed, which was obviously a negative, but it could be a mental thing too. I feel like in Ryan Williams' situation, man, that's a lot of pressure and expectation coming off his rookie year. Uh, that's something that I necessarily didn't have to go through. I always was having to prove or just hope for an opportunity and take advantage of it. Or sometimes I don't really have anything to lose. He has a lot to lose. And, being in this social media, TikTok, NIL world, it's probably a lot of pressure on a 17, 18-year-old kid. So I feel like that is my opinion, why he is having issues. I don't think it's a scared thing. I don't think it's a confidence thing. And I don't think it's an ability thing at all. I think once he gets the ball in his hands, he is the most dynamic player in college football.
Yeah.
But what he has to do, and this is obviously, has been talking, but what I believe he needs to do is just get back to the fundamentals of looking, obviously in a game, you're not going to look to tuck, you got to go play football. But I always tell guys this, no matter what, whether it's I'm training a kid, talking to some high schoolers, or, you know, over the years training with other guys, your hands don't catch a ball, your eyes do. And people are like, well, Slade, your hands catch the ball. That's what's that. Yeah, no shit. But I'm saying you got to see it to catch it. And I think working on the fundamentals, creating good habits of seeing the ball, looking to tuck. When you get into a game like situation, you've already built that habit of looking to tuck. Now we get our eyes downfield to be as dynamic as Ryan Williams is. I would have loved to have been as dynamic as he was with the ball in my hands. His visual and field awareness is incredible. And that's why I know he is such a confident player. But man, when you go out there and you have all this pressure, yeah, I'm sure things get to you. Your eyes get bigger than they should be. That football becomes a golf ball instead of a beach ball. Sometimes that is the case. It's just like a guy in a slump, batting. It is what it is. But I think the more times we can get him easy throws, get the ball in his hands, whether it's slip screen, tunnel screen, swing routes, that is just going to build his confidence to be like, man, I really am him. Like, I can do this because maybe he, from the first game, kind of got humbled a little bit, and that can play with the confidence of a young man. So I don't think it's anything to do with ability. I have a feeling it's the overall expectation and pressure that he probably puts on himself, and also, hey, let's work on the fundamentals instead of the new trending TikTok dance.
Oh man. I mean, I mean, we can all agree here. We know it
Yeah,
has
it's so
nothing to
many different
do with
things.
ability.
Yeah.
And there's so many different things. We'll never know exactly what the reason is per person unless we were able to ask them themselves. And maybe they don't even know. But I
I've
think
dropped
too.
balls too. It is what it happens. And hey, and then that shit happens. Okay. And I've gotten killed and dropping one ball in my career. I've dropped two in my career. I consider true drops. And one of them had to be a time where I didn't even see the damn thing. But hey, I can't make excuses, right?
Yeah.
I
God
think,
forbid.
and Slade, going off of that, I think the best clip we've had come out of this show is Josh talking about his good, bad, and ugly experience when he was, quote, torn a new asshole. So I want to hear from you. Do you have any memories of the good, bad, and ugly when you guys were breaking down film?
Tell him, Slade.
Oh
Good, bad,
man.
and ugly. Two
I,
o'clock
I've
on
had
Monday.
I probably had more good on special teams than I did
Yeah.
playing receiver. The one that was like the most just up and down emotionally, which I knew it was coming. And I've said this before on a podcast, but it was against Mercer my senior year.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was probably the fourth check down, which luckily I was wide open, caught like a little drag route, went upfield, and I'm getting to the corner of the end zone. And, this DB who probably weighs 50 pounds less than I do, I just decided, hey, look, I don't care. I'm getting in this end zone because
Mm-hmm.
I know there might not be another opportunity where I get in this paint. So whatever it takes for me to get in this end zone, I'm gonna do it. And my mind immediately goes to, hey, I'm gonna jump. Maybe not the smartest thing to do at the time. Probably could have just dove or
Mm-hmm.
made him miss or maybe run him over. But I'm like, I'm getting in that paint. Now, what I did, which was not smart, and this is one of the big saving just biggest no-nos is don't stick the ball out when you're crossing the line of the plane, the end zone plane. Because look, hey, you could stick the ball out, they knock it out before you cross the plane, they get the ball, or it's a touchback, whatever it is, they got the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, I'm getting in there. So when I jumped, I extended my hands and I'd cross the plane. Trust me, ball comes out. So I get up. And I didn't even think about, oh, hell yeah, I just scored in front of 70, 80,000 people. This is awesome. First TD of the year. Let's go. I'm immediately going, shit. What is Coach Saban thinking right now? I know he's pissed.
Yeah.
So I get up. Luckily, the ref gives me a touchdown. And, Jameson Williams is in my ear just firing up, yelling. He's so happy. And I'm like, I can only think of one thing. What is Coach Saban about to say to me when I get back to the sideline? And as I'm going back to the sideline, I see it. I just see his facial expression, and I could tell that I'm about to just
Get an
get,
earful.
yeah, what'd you say? Get
Get an
my ass torn a
earful.
new one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So luckily, they ruled it a touchdown on the field. Hey, we go on, we continue to play the game. So come Monday, I know for a fact that I'm going to be on this screen because I did score, but also there's another little intangible here that is going to be talked about. So we get to this play, and I'm just like I am right now, just sinking back in my seat, just like, oh, I just can't wait for this to get drawn up. And obviously, we go through it. He's like, hey, great throw here. Bryce, good read. 18, good job. What are we doing? Right? I mean, the DB is 150. Run him over. Why are we diving, sticking the ball out? And I'm just like, oh, because obviously in my mind, I'm like, Coach, I scored, but
Yeah.
don't stick that damn ball out. So when I said before we even started this podcast, I was like, I've been a part of good and ugly in one clip.
Yeah.
And you talk about a roller coaster of emotions. You go from hell yeah, I scored to just absolutely pants down spanking in the middle of a supermarket, just embarrassing. But hey, you best believe I didn't do that again.
Well, I beg to differ. So 2020 Alabama versus Ohio State championship. You caught the little whip ball. It was like on the left hand side. Didn't you dive out a little bit on that
Josh,
play?
first off, that was a national championship. Second of all, we didn't have a following Monday, good, bad, and ugly me. We won the natty. It didn't matter at that point. But I had two hands on the ball, and that was a granite. I was that when I needed to stick my arms out because I was moving towards the pile line. This one
Yeah.
did not need to. But
Okay.
yeah, I've
That's
been there, and
funny.
I'm sure I could think of some other ones, but that's the first one that comes to my mind.
Yeah. That's funny.
You got to take a
Awesome.
sip of wine after remembering that sequence.
Oh
So,
man.
and yeah, Mac, you were talking a little bit about just moving forward, going into Georgia. Just talk a little bit about what you're hoping happens going into this week, and obviously we'll preview the game next week. But as we move on from Wisconsin as well.
Yeah, look, we had a W, we had another win under the belt. We're catching some steam. I hope that we whip our ass into shape. They're ready for Georgia. The Tide's getting there. We're getting freaking ready. People are getting fired up. Bye week goes well, and we segue into Georgia week with some absolute steam. Gosh, I was about to stuff comes to my head, and I don't say it because it
You
wouldn't
hope
Yeah,
to
make
see
please
sense,
Ty
and
Slang in that thing.
yeah, I'm
uh,
not going to say anything. I know
oh
Slade would be the
God.
first person to tell me, probably Paul. Uh, I just hope we continue to have the momentum we've had. Like Slade mentioned, the biggest things this season have been effort, discipline. The mentality that guys have. We've seen it improve game by game. So I hope we continue to see that. That's the number one thing I think, especially former guys, we want to see. We'd love to see W's. We'd love to see guys go out there and have incredible plays. But I think all of us really want to see guys that want to live and die for the program that we wanted to do the same for, that we loved being a part of. So that's the biggest thing going into Georgia week, and I'm freaking ready. I'm fired up.
Yeah.
Definitely. And we're going to get to our picks here in a minute. Slade's going to pick with us, and he's going to be,
Yes.
we're going to see his record along with future guests we have. But Slade, you brought it up, and before we get to the picks, you mentioned Kalen DeBoer and how a lot of people you question, is he the right guy? Looking at the effort and everything for you as a former player, how does that make you feel? We've heard a lot about Josh and Mac talking about how it disappoints them to see that effort in Florida State, but do you think Kalen is the right guy going forward?
That it's so hard to like put words to it. I mean, just the pride I have. I mean, that place changed my life forever. That football program, the brothers I had in that locker room, the experiences, the relationships that I made playing for Coach Saban and all the other coaches that coached me. I would not be the man and I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for that. So I just have so much pride because I know what it took to win the big one. And I know what you had to go through, and I know the type of dudes you had to have in that locker room and the type of coaches. So it's so hard for me to watch a team not play to what I think is the way we should play. I say all that to also tell you this is not the game that I played, that Mac played, that Josh played in. Like, this is a new world. This NIL, the transfer portal, th- everything is so much different. So it's so hard for me to want one way when it truly is not that way. So I don't, this is not my team anymore. This is not our team anymore. If Saban was still there, I would have definitely a certain type of way of feeling, but I don't know if necessarily DeBoer's the right guy. He may be the right guy in this new world. Maybe that's the type of coach that you need when dealing with these type of guys now. Because I've heard the stories of people when it comes to recruiting and not just the kids, the parents. Like
Yeah.
they all they want to see is how many zeros are in that check. It's no longer how can we develop your son to become not only the best man he can be, the best student he can be, and eventually the best athlete that is going to prepare him for the next level, which is the ultimate goal. So that's the thing that I have to kind of sit back and understand that this is a new world from all throughout college football. It's hard to say that he isn't or is the right guy. He isn't the right guy from what I remember Bama being, but he might be the right guy for what college football is now.
Yeah, I think that's well put. And you're not saying if you win the lottery you're gonna run him out of town like some Alabama fans have in
No.
viral clips.
Well, I'm also very understanding that hey, our fans have been spoiled in the past and the old Bama fans that have been Bama fans since the tough days of Shula, and there's some other ones I could probably mention or I don't even remember, but I was obviously not alive or was a fan of LSU or
Stalling,
Bama growing
Bear
up. I
Bryant.
was yeah, but obviously Bear Bryant, Stallings, but in between them, it was there were some bad years. So
Yeah.
they understand that, hey, this it's not always going to be a smooth transition. But the new fans that maybe were closer to my age or newly bought into the program, when you have success, you usually gain more fans. They're quick to judge and quick to make irrational comments. So, I think at the end of the day, things like this take time. And then you
Yeah.
add just the new world of college football into it. Man, I couldn't imagine being a coach in this world. I couldn't imagine any coach, any school,
Yeah.
trying to adapt to this new world. So, look, we still got a lot of season left. You know, I think after this year, it will give us a good idea
Hmm.
on, DeBoer's future. But look, it's going to be tough regardless.
Yeah.
And it sucks because we're so used to dominating.
Yeah. I think
No doubt.
it's big shoes to try to go and fill. I mean, we've been spoiled with Coach
Hmm.
Saban for 10, 15 years. And asking the guy that played on the West Coast, never really played in the SEC, to come out here and, pick up just like nothing, slacked off, is a tremendous ask. We're talking about one of, if not the best college football coach in the
The
world.
best.
Yeah.
So, like, there has to be some drop off. Like, I mean, you have Brian Kelly at LSU that just left from Notre Dame. I mean, I think he's on
Yelling at
his,
reporters.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's on his fifth year, and now he has his team ranked number 3 in the nation. So like it takes time for a guy to really come in, establish his identity within a new system in a new state. With a whole lot of unfamiliar faces. So I think it's too early to write, Kalen off this soon. I mean, he had a good job. He did a good job last year. Had a few guys to come back like Jalen. Um, we didn't get the job done, but that didn't say like, hey, look, we didn't have a losing season. We still had a pretty positive season, and we're heading in the right direction this season. So I think, with a little bit of time on his under his belt, getting the the pieces in the puzzle like Ty Simpson and the other receivers around him, I think we'll be in the shot for a lot later on in the year.
No doubt. Like all three of us have said all year, everything is very much still in front of us. Big game at Georgia, and we'll see what happens from there. So, we do have some picks to get through. I'm happy to report that I did bounce back after a 1-7-1 week. I went 6-2. I was the best
Go.
on the podcast last week. Sharps Hereford was actually last at 3-5 last week. Josh coming in right in the middle at 4-4. Mac is still our leader at 16-14-1. Josh is 15-15-1 even right there, and I am 13-17-1, but steaming from behind. We have a couple games for this week. No Alabama games, so obviously not going to have a pick there. Slade is going to pick alongside us, and you will see his record with every other guest we have this season. And we're going to let Slade kick it off here.
Oh.
Gonna get through these quick. The first game we have 17th ranked Texas Tech at 16th ranked Utah. Utah a 3.5 point favorite. What you got, Slade?
Texas Tech because of Wes Welker and Danny Amendola. And you can guess why.
Josh,
Wait,
what you got?
Give me Texas Tech. They have been an explosive offense all year long. I think they're ranked number 1 in the country, as far as scoring points a game. So I'll take Texas over Utah.
I
And
like
Mac?
Utah with the freaking spread. I'm going against the guys. Is it the Utes?
Ah,
Is that what they call them?
The
We're
Utes.
taking
Hmm.
Utah
Yeah, your
defense.
favorite team. You don't even know the name.
look
Yeah,
at you.
they're not my favorite team, but the Utah Utes are going to cover. Best believe it. Hammer it with Hereford here. 3 point. They're going to cover the spread -3.5. Their defense looks good. Home field advantage. I don't even know what Utah's stadium looks like, but I'm sure that place is going to be bumping around for this game.
I'll tell you what, night games in Utah are difficult. This one has the big noon kickoff on Fox, so not a night game there. I'm gonna go with Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech is the best team in the Big 12 right now, and I think they're gonna make a statement on the road this week. Another Big Ten showdown. Ninth ranked Illinois at 19th ranked Indiana. Indiana a 3.5 point favorite. Illinois whipped up on Duke. I'm gonna go with Illinois. This one, 3.5 point dog on the road. Mac, what you got?
Look, I like the name, the Fighting Illini. I'm not going to lie to you. But what I'm seeing better is the Indiana Hoosiers and the way they've been playing ball. They look polished. They look good. We're going to take the Hoosiers with the spread. Shout out to my trainer, Jay Todd, who's from Indiana, big Indiana guy. We're going to go with the Hoosiers here.
Josh, what you got?
Give me Illinois just because they whooped up on Duke, early on in the year. I'll take Illinois. They've been looking pretty solid all year.
And Slade?
I couldn't tell you what any of these teams look like, but I'm going to go with Indiana because I was coached by a couple guys that came from Indiana and really helped me when they got to Bama.
I'm sorry about
There you
this, man.
go. All right, moving on. 21st ranked Michigan, a 2.5 point favorite on the road in Big Red Country at Nebraska. I'm gonna go with Nebraska. Dylan Raiola. I saw his mentor play in person on Sunday. I was at the Eagles Chiefs game. Patrick Mahomes. I'm gonna go Nebraska, defending home turf. Josh, kicking it to you. What you got?
I think I'm gonna go with Michigan. Like they've been looking really solid. The run game has got established. They took one of our running backs. Not gonna speak on his name, but I wish him best. But I will be going with Michigan on this dub.
Slade, what you got? Michigan, a 2.5 point favorite at Nebraska.
Well, I like an upset here. I like Nebraska. You know, watching Bussin' with the Boys and Will Compton, man, those
The
guys
Bussin'
fire me
Bowl.
up. Yeah, I want to see Nebraska come out top, just because I do like those guys a lot, especially Will.
Yeah,
And
I
Mac?
Slade, for some reason I had a feeling you're gonna say that, but I don't want to fade the Bussin guys here because I know obviously Compton and Nebraska. And Nebraska is a tough place to play, but I'm gonna have to go with Michigan. They've just looked more explosive. I think it's gonna be tough on the road, but I think they're gonna get the job done. They're gonna cover the spread.
Yeah.
All right, getting into some SEC play. Auburn still ranked. They did not cover against South Alabama. That was the one of the games I got right. The two of you did not get right. Auburn at Oklahoma. Oklahoma a 6.5 point favorite, and this is a get right game for excuse me, a revenge game for Auburn. I'm gonna go with Oklahoma 6.5 point favorite at home. They're gonna cover that one. What do you say, Slade?
Yeah, I like Oklahoma here too. I think Mateer is an unbelievable special player, and the fact that Auburn didn't cover the spread against South Alabama, I mean, that just shows me that they're not willing to score a lot of points. And if Oklahoma can play as well they've been playing, especially at home, they'll definitely outscore Auburn, and I don't think there's going to be any issues there. So I got Oklahoma.
Mac?
I'm going to go with Oklahoma as well. We talked about the importance of balance on the offense in Oklahoma. We've seen more of that with them than Auburn. And so I think that they're just going to come out there and, like Slade said, Slade, they screwed me last week. I took them to cover the spread and they didn't do it. So I'm going to have to fade them this week. Oklahoma -6.5.
And
So
Josh
Major
wrapping it.
Applewhite, baby.
Wait, is he at Oklahoma right now?
No, Major Coach Applewhite, South Alabama's head coach.
Oh
Uh,
God, sorry, Coach Apple. Oh wait, no, he did. I should have taken him. I didn't even know he was the head coach there. God dang it, I love Major Applewhite.
Yeah, he's an OG.
You also didn't take Huff with Southern Miss when they were playing. I don't even remember who
I
they
think it
were
was
playing,
Mississippi
but
State. Was it
I
that was
know. I
another
hated
one.
to do
Yeah,
that.
there you
I
go.
hated to do that.
Yeah.
And Josh, wrap us up. Oklahoma versus Auburn.
I think I'm gonna go Oklahoma. Hugh Freeze has not been looking like himself. Yes, he's ranked for the first time, in what 5, 6 years. But I think we're gonna go with Oklahoma in their environment.
And another one, Tulane at 13th ranked Ole Miss going back to Louisiana. Slade close to where he grew up right there. Ole Miss a 11.5 point favorite. They did not look good against Arkansas. Obviously, backup quarterback Austin Simmons, not sure what's going on there. Tulane beat up on Duke, another team on here who beat up on Duke. I'm going to go Tulane to cover the 11.5, and I'm going to go to Slade right here.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go Tulane to cover the 11.5 for sure. But I think that backup quarterback played well. Just coming in, coming as a transfer. I think Austin Simmons is an unbelievable player. I actually called for him when he was like a junior, maybe. in high school when I was coming out for the draft, and watching him spin the Duke the way he did at that age was super impressive. And he's a super nice kid, but him being out obviously plays an effect. But yeah, hey, you come back down to the boot, you're gonna get some kind of ass whooping. So no matter if you lose or win, but you're gonna feel something. You're gonna feel that wave, baby. So I do like the fact I do think Ole Miss comes out on top, but I like them with 11.5.
All right, Mac, what you got?
Gosh, I mean, I was torn before, but Slade talking about the Green Wave, talking about schools in Louisiana kicking ass. I'm gonna, Ole Miss has not looked as good as I thought they would be this season so far. Love Coach Kiffin and their staff, but gonna have to go with the Green Wave.
And
11.5.
Josh wrapping us up with Ole Miss Tulane.
I'm gonna go with the Ole Miss here. I have faith in Lane Kiffin and getting Austin Simmons back on track. Pete Golden, my old linebacker coach, is the defensive coordinator over there. I think they'll be able to, be able to hold things up and get the dub and coverage for it.
And I'm going to call my shot. Tulane's going to win this game on the road, pull the upset. Moving on, a battle in Florida. Florida has been on the free fall, and I think they're going to keep falling. They're at fourth ranked Miami. Miami looking good. They're a 7.5 point favorite, and I'm definitely riding with the Canes. Mac, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. Florida's had their struggles this year, and Miami has looked pretty damn solid. I think they may even win by more than a touchdown. So I'm going to go with the Hurricanes.
Josh?
Give me the Hurricanes. We got two Alabama alumni, Billy Napier, Mario Cristobal. I don't see Napier coming out of the hole he's dug himself in. They had a very, very hard loss at LSU last week. I think Miami is gonna, upset them again this week. Give me Miami.
All right. And Slade, what you got?
Oh, I'm gonna throw everybody for a loop here. First off, Billy Napier was the first guy to recruit me at Bama, so that's one thing.
Ah.
And two, I think it's anybody's game. Any given Saturday,
For
give
sure.
me the Florida Gators. Let's go.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Come
Interesting.
on.
This this
Spicing it
this is
up.
a this is essentially a must-win game for Billy Napier. We've already seen two firings. UCLA, Virginia Tech both fired their head coach. Miami, then Texas A&M. He probably wouldn't survive that stretch if they don't get a win. So a big game for Napier down there at Miami. South Carolina, they've looked rough. A lot of injuries this past week versus Max Vanderbilt Commodores. They are on the road this week at 23rd ranked Missouri. Missouri, a 13.5 point favorite. And Mac, I'm going to let you get us started with this one.
Look, I thought South Carolina looked great in their opener against Vatech. I guess it's just hard to see throughout the season. You get that first game. Like you even look at Alabama, and I don't know if you would have thought we would have done what we did against Wisconsin, looking at the Florida State game, but you don't know which teams are really great and which ones are not. All to say that South Carolina, I thought they were electric coming out this season, especially with their quarterback. Did their quarterback ever come back? Didn't he get injured?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
he
don't
got
think
hurt. So did Dylan Stewart in
So
that game.
Lenore Sellers is out.
yeah.
South Carolina showed some flashes, but I just think I'm gonna 13 and a half is a lot of points, but I'm
hmm
gonna have to go with Missouri covering the spread.
Josh?
I'm gonna go with Missouri just because, like what Max said, South Carolina came out strong with a good performance, but with the quarterback position being kind of a question mark, I don't think they'll be able to carry through and perform. A lot of the hope was around the QB position because he played so well early in the season opener. So I just don't see it without him being present in this game plan. So give me Missouri.
Slade?
Yeah, I don't know too much about Missouri. I thought South Carolina had a lot of potential to be very explosive, especially on offense. Um, but granted, the injuries, I'm going to go Missouri as well.
I will. Well, you all zigged, so I'm going to zag. I'll take South Carolina with the points on the road. Our last one, we can get through this one quick. It's our only game not involving a ranked team on the slate. Arkansas, a 7.5 point favorite on the road at Memphis, a group of five road game. I'm going to go with Arkansas.
Memphis,
They
man.
look decent against Ole Miss. Josh has some thoughts on this one, so in his hometown. So I'll kick it to
Say,
Josh.
man. Say, man.
Say, man.
Say,
Hey,
man.
man. We gonna come do the thing. I don't care if we're in the SEC or not. Do not sleep on Memphis. They have been known for upsetting big time teams. Give
Florida
me
State
Memphis for
last
the
year.
win. Yes, sir.
And
Memphis
Slade, what you
Tigers.
got?
Uh, Unfortunately, I think Arkansas is going to come in and take over that trap.
Hey, you ain't taking over in Memphis. You ain't taking over there.
Just that one trap, not all the bandos and down.
Yeah, nah.
What was it, West or North Memphis? What's the worst part?
Nah, this is
Where's
South
Dolphin?
Memphis.
South Memphis is
South
where
Memphis, man.
Dolphin and Moneybag and Yo Gotti and all them from.
Nah, you got it from North. We
Oh,
got
okay,
it's a line. We
make
divide
it makes sense why the beef is what it is.
it.
And Mac finished us off.
Yeah, I mean, look, Arkansas sure as hell can't slice like the dudes in Memphis can. But but I talked to my buddy Steven Gostkowski today, Patriots former kicker who played at Memphis, and he was telling me take the Tigers. So I'm going with the Memphis Tigers to cover the spread. Slade, no shot. They come in that trap and take over that trap, my boy.
Well,
All right.
Slade, thank you much. Thank you very much for joining us. Our first guest on the M3 show. Definitely won't be the last time you make an appearance. So I appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, well, I appreciate y'all having me. It's always a pleasure. Like I said, anytime I get to talk ball, especially with some good people and my brothers, I'm always in. So thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well,
Slade Bolden.
that'll do it for episode 4. No game this week. We'll be back next week to preview Georgia, talk about what Alabama needs to get a top 5 win on the road next week at Georgia. So enjoy your Saturday and roll tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.